SIU is pouncing on some unsuspecting officials today. We believe this matter is linked to a multi-million rand housing department's irregular tender scandal. Let's go live there in Rosebank, where our senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo joins us live. Ziyanda, very good morning to you. Some interesting developments. What's happening?
Well, certainly, Mpho, the SIU, the Hawks and the NPA are making good on their promise to start pouncing on people or citizens who have been implicated in state capture. Now, we understand today that this is a joint operation to actually apprehend those linked to the asbestos tender in the Free State worth over 250 million rand. They are expecting to arrest people in Gauteng, Free State and in KwaZulu-Natal. 7 people will be expected to be nabbed today. We're in Rosebank, where one of the witnesses who testified before the state capture inquiry just yesterday, Mpho, will be arrested in this building behind me. He's expected to come down those stairs. You can see the NPA spokesperson, Sipongwema. He's standing there. There's Kaiser Khanyago from the SIU. So, of course, there is a lot. He's expected to come down these stairs, and the Hawks officials are already inside the building, where we understand that this particular suspect is with his lawyer, and they are expected to actually take him in. I must say, Mpho, that we were at another venue in Centurion earlier, but that particular suspect was not at the venue, so it's unclear whether or not all 7 of those who were expected to be nabbed today will actually be apprehended. But Mpho, what I can tell you is that this is, of course, in line with the promise that was made by the investigative directorate head, Hermione Kronya, who said in September high-profile arrests would be made in relation to state capture. And of course, this came amid mounting public pressure on law enforcement agencies to actually, follow up on the testimonies made at the state capture inquiry. And so today's arrests are in line with that action, Mpho.
Let's talk a little bit about the alleged masterminds of a scheme that saw the Free State's Department of Human Settlements fork out 200 million rand for an unlawful asbestos audit process that really just resulted in some of the work not being done, and some of the companies that didn't even qualify to even begin working on a process like this. Let's talk about the processes that have come out of the Zondo Commission. And we also heard Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo speaking about how this has taken an emotional toll on himself. Let's talk a little bit about what transpired there.
Well, most certainly, Mpho, there have been several testimonies related to that asbestos project. As you've rightfully mentioned, it never got underway. The houses that had asbestos were actually never had that substance removed. But I can tell you that the suspect who's being nabbed today, appeared at the State Capture Commission. I cannot mention his name yet because he is expected to appear in court on Friday alongside his co-accused in Bloemfontein. But what I can tell you is that they appeared in court just yesterday. They are accused, they own a company that is said to have paid monies to ANC officials, including Treasurers General, past and present, Dr. Zweli Mkhize and Paul Mashatile. A Weekend Report also spoke about this particular suspect having paid nearly 200,000 rand to former spokesperson of the ANC, Zizi, and he's now, of course, the Deputy Minister of the Intelligence. So this particular suspect is believed to be one of the kingpins. We understand that a report was compiled by the inquiry investigators, which has led to today's action, Mpho. And we know, of course, that Justice Minister Ronald Lamola had said that there is a working agreement that is being concluded to actually say that this particular the investigators of the state capture inquiry would be working closely with law enforcement agencies to expedite the process. But Mpho, I'd like to actually bring in the Hawk spokesperson, Hangwani Mulaudzi, who will actually give us an update on how many people have been arrested in your operation. We started off in Centurion. The suspect was not at that particular place. We understand in KwaZulu-Natal the suspect is also AWOL. How far are you with this morning's operation?
Well, we're happy with the progress so far, although we did have those setbacks, but those setbacks are being dealt with now. So far, we have arrested 4 suspects. The 4th one is going to be coming down very soon. And then we have to regroup and check how best we can be able to account for the other 3 that are outstanding. You would know, I mean, you have said it. It's regarding the issue of the Free State, the asbestos saga. We worked very well with the SIU, the MPA, hence we're having this arrest today. 255 million is a lot of money that was siphoned off from government, and as such, it is imperative that we send a strong message out there that corruption in this country cannot be tolerated, and we need to make sure that those are responsible are brought to book.
Those 3 suspects who you haven't apprehended, do we know why? Was there a leak of information that may have informed them that that you are actually on your way to get them?
Well, look, in terms of our own operations, we don't make sure. I mean, we try by all means that information is not leaked. So we're not sure. We're not sure. But what we can say for now is that there are warrant of arrest that have been issued. So it's better for them to hand themselves over, because this will have serious implications when they have to apply for bail on Friday.
How many more arrests are we expecting? This is day 1. We're expecting more during the week?
Look, we are expecting that we must finalize everything today. If those ones who decided not to hand themselves over, well, they will have to do that before Friday. So we will hear from the operators what has happened. So what we are sure of is that on Friday, the case has to go on irrespective of what happens today.
All right, well, there you have it, Mpho. That's Hawk spokesperson Hangwani Mulaudzi. We are still standing by, of course, for that suspect to be brought down and actually taken into this Hawk's vehicle. Senzo's going to show you here. This is where that suspect is going to be put into and taken, of course, into custody as a part of this large operation that's being conducted by law enforcement agencies this morning. You've just heard from Hangwani Mulaudzi that 4 of the 7 suspects that they had planned to apprehend today have already been nabbed. The 4th one is coming down any moment from now, Mpho. And of course, they're saying that more arrests are anticipated. And this is linked, of course, to that asbestos project in the Free State, which we've heard over the last 2 weeks, testimonies coming out from the Zondo Commission.
Ziyanda, what sort of impression does this now leave on the South African citizen as the high-profile arrest of these several key figures takes place, especially as the age of South Africa's impunity, is it well over and dusted as we look and see the work of the Hawks after being promised, of course, by the President and reassured that more will be done when it comes to dealing and tackling corruption in the country?
Well, there's no doubt, Mpho, that law enforcement agencies were under immense pressure from the South African public, from the government. The President himself said he wanted results when it came to those implicated in state capture. So certainly, I would assume that the law enforcement agencies believe that today's action will help actually show the public, the South African public, that they are working fast and hard to actually apprehend and put those implicated in state capture in orange overalls. Of course, then the question still remains, are these really the kingpins in state capture, or is it still the low-hanging fruits, which is what we've seen over the years, which citizens have complained about, that they want to see the kingpins, the masterminds, and the puppet masters who are actually behind state capture. So certainly this is a first of a series of arrests, as you've heard from Hangwani Mulaudzi, and they're saying that these agreements that have been worked on, such as the one that I've mentioned, between state capture investigators and the National Prosecuting Authority, will help expedite but also strengthen the type of cases that they have. But also, Mpho, to say that, the State Capture Commission is not just a gossip session where people come and speak and thereafter nothing happens, because that was one of the criticisms leveled against the Commission and its chair, to say, you keep having these people coming forward, where is the evidence? If there is evidence, why is that evidence not being acted upon? So certainly today's action is a step in the right direction. direction. But of course, many more arrests are anticipated, and it's not just the asbestos project that experts have said is an open and shut case. For an example, the Vrede Dairy Farm, which has been in the news cycle for years, many believe that is also an open and shut case. But if you speak to officials and law enforcement agencies, they'll tell you that, of course, the way in which they conduct their investigations isn't necessarily the same way in which it's presented, of course, at the State Capture Commission, and they obviously need to come up with more concrete evidence before actually taking action, such as today, where they are nabbing several suspects across the country.
Ziyanda, I suppose at the heart of this matter is the shocking financial wastage and the impact that it had on those who were meant to benefit from this project, the residents who are meant to have had the asbestos removed from their homes. That process wasn't even complete. And also the manner in which this project was handled when it comes to huge sums of money being spent only on the auditing process without the actual work being done.
Most certainly, Paul. I mean, those are some of the things that have already come out of the State Capture Commission, and you would have heard even evidence leader Paul Pretorius talking about how, while these issues come out, they should actually be looked at in the much bigger picture. So this asbestos project is one way in which we're able to see how things have worked, from entrepreneurs right through money being sent to or being sent to politicians' accounts, and that money then circulating from the government and the movement of the money. They always say, follow the money, and of course, this is exactly what the law enforcement agencies have done. This particular suspect that is going to be coming down any moment from now is actually a known entrepreneur. Newspapers were running with the fact that he received 34 million rands worth of kickbacks, and so there's still going to be lots of questions to be answered by senior politicians within the ANC in terms of what that money was for. I mean, this suspect just yesterday was saying that him and Zizi Godwa are actually good friends, and so the nearly 180,000 rand which was deposited into Godwa's account was as a friend. It was when Zizi Godwa was still at Luthuli House, so he wasn't a government official, and we know that Godwa himself has defended himself by saying that he wasn't a government official, so therefore he cannot be accused of influencing where tenders go. But in as far as the caliber of the people who are being arrested, as I've already mentioned, it is a step in the right direction, and it also, like I said, it unpacks the patronage networks. The 6.5 million that was sent allegedly to Dr. Zweli Mkhize, this particular suspect actually said that Mkhize approached him while he was still Treasurer General of the ANC to assist the party with activities. So follow the money, Paul. You will get an understanding of where the money comes from, who it goes through, and where it ultimately ends up.
As you speak about following the money, we know that with this project, for the funds to be rolled out, they were nearing the end of the financial year, and what wasn't used would subsequently need to be returned back. So there was a lot of pressure to ensure that these funds are rolled out, and of course questions were asked to Msebenzi Zwane, for instance, the Free State Human Settlement MEC of the time, about why the funds needed to be rolled out so speedily and why a proper tender process wasn't followed, as opposed to that very controversial database.
I mean, the testimonies from former and current Free State human settlement officials has actually been quite shocking to South Africans, just by virtue of the concessions that Msebenzi Zwane himself said it was more ignorance than it was corruption when it came to the processes that need to be followed when it comes to tenders. We also heard just the other day from the incumbent human settlements MEC, Mr. Mokgesi, also saying that there is some semblance of accountability accountability that would fall within the department for the fact that this particular asbestos project, one, the company that was hired never ever had the experience to actually conduct that project, but secondly, that project never actually got underway. I'm just going to step out of shot. That's one of the Hawks officials. We're not sure yet how soon. We're expecting, okay, she just nodded her head. They are coming. They are on their way, and we're expecting that they would have covered their head when they make their way down. But I know that we aren't allowed to show their faces. Of course, they haven't appeared in court, which is why I haven't even mentioned their name at this particular point in time. Of course, there are legal protocols that need to be followed. He does need to appear in court, but at these offices, we understand that this particular suspect was anticipating the arrival of the Hawks because this is his lawyer's office, so it's not necessarily their place of residence, and we understand that from here we'll be moving to this particular suspect's offices where the Hawks are still going to continue with that particular raid.
Now, as we try and get more on this particular suspect that's going to be arrested, what do we know about what the Zondo Commission has heard about his influence and his involvement, especially when it comes to a car dealership deposit and linkages to him and the sort of interaction he had with the HODs in the Free State?
I mean, one of the testimonies that's come out is that there was a 600,000 rand deposit to a car dealership in KwaZulu-Natal to someone who was at the time the Director General of Human Settlements. Now, I also can't mention that person's name because this is one of the gentlemen who's also meant to have been nabbed in KwaZulu-Natal. We understand that they sit on a board in Richards Bay. So it's just explaining the intricacies of how actually the patronage networks move from national, provincial, right down to a local level. So we understand that this particular suspect made a 600,000 rand deposit of money into a car dealership, which was meant to buy a Range Rover for this suspect, who is now based in KwaZulu-Natal, but there were a DDG in the Human Settlements Department. So those are just some of the things that have come out about the suspect. He's been described as a entrepreneur who really is almost, has a close relationship with politicians so far within the implicated within the ANC. So politicians in the ANC, that's what we've heard so far, and so it will be very interesting to see now that this matter is going to be before the courts, how strong the case will be from the NPA. I see movement from my colleague Senzo. It seems as though any second from now, we will be seeing that suspect coming down the steps. And of course, this is a moment that South Africans have been waiting for quite some time, to see those people implicated in state capture getting arrested. Now, then the next step will be, how strong is the case? Will they get convicted, and will they get bail? Because we know that that is usually where most matters actually take place. And I think it's significant then, that it's the Hawks, the NPA, and the Special Investigating Units that have come today in this joint operation to show the level of cooperation that's taking place between the law enforcement agencies.
Ziyanda, this man that's set to be arrested has been described as a silver-tongued tender tycoon, and his relationship with sitting ministers dates over a long period, about 6 years or so. That speaks to the amount of influence and the time he had to build these relationships and have some sort of influence.
No, most certainly, Mpo, and I think you're referring to the Sunday World Report, which came out this past Sunday, of course, preempting today's arrests that are taking place across the country. And I mean, this is exactly the nature of state capture and the nature of the testimonies and the evidence that's been presented so far before the Commission to actually unpack how long this has taken place, the extent to which state capture has taken place, and really how wide and far-reaching are these networks. And as I've already alluded to, it seems as though this extends from a national, provincial, right down to a local level, and such is the nature of these patronage networks. And so this has actually always been the argument of law enforcement agencies, to say just because you hear something at the State Capture Commission, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is enough evidence or that we're ready to nab someone already. So, I mean, you've heard from Hangwani saying that they've worked really well as law enforcement agencies to actually bring this action together. And I think I'm going to actually try to go back to Hangwani to get a sense of what is happening now. I see there's a bit of a brief taking place, and I'm going to hijack you, Hangwani, because we have been standing outside for quite some time. Where is the suspect? We've been going on air for quite some time. I mean, is he coming out? Is there difficulty inside? I know one of your colleagues just came from inside. How much longer should we wait for this to happen?
Well, it will happen anytime. We're also waiting. So we need just to be patient. But things are going very smoothly. He's cooperating with them, with the team. So we're just waiting. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but anytime soon it will happen.
But what happens when the Hawks arrive at a venue such as this one? We know that this is his lawyer's office. Do you present him with papers? What exactly is the procedure that takes place?
Well, you know that we have to, of course, give the suspect, he read his rights. He's got the constitutional rights to know what is happening. And because his lawyer is here as well, you have to check and make sure that everything is in place. But this warrant of arrest, it states clearly what is it all about. So any other matters that might need the lawyer's intervention can be dealt with when the case has already been heard in court. So we just need to make sure that we don't circumvent any other procedures when it comes to these matters. It's very, very delicate, and we need to make sure that we don't make any mistakes.
So once he's put into this Hawks vehicle, where exactly is he going to be taken? And I understand that there's still more action taking place once we leave here.
Yeah, look, of course he has to be charged formally, and of course like we said, the suspect has to be transported to Bloemfontein. So that will be the decision that the team will decide when they're going to take him to Bloemfontein.
And you're still going to go to his offices once you leave here?
There's a search and seizure that still have to be conducted, and that is has to be done today. So that is one area that is going to take a lot of time as well, because we have to make sure that we cover all the grounds.
And what exactly are you going to be looking for during this search and seizure when it comes to this particular suspect, whom we know has several ties to senior politicians within the ANC?
Well, that remains confidential. It's something that we cannot put it in the public space. But the search and seizure, you know what it entails. But that is something that we cannot put out there. There is specific information that we're looking for, and hopefully we'll get it.
All right. Well, there you have it. Thanks for letting me hijack you. That's Hangwani Mulaudi, Hawks spokesperson. There's still a bit of movement here. There's Sipongwema speaking to Hangwani. Kaiser Khangyago. They're teasing me in pause that I actually hijacked him. It's a wait and see kind of game. We're also in this together. My colleagues here as well. We're all waiting for this colleague to actually make their way down in Paul. Any moment now. I think I've said that maybe for the past 10 minutes. So, I mean, really, there's no telling when and what is happening behind those doors in Paul.
Very well. Wait and see game. Our senior political reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo